Welcome back. We've been going through the understanding of individual investors, right? Here, we're going to study Camelia Kuhnen and Meltzer's research paper. They find that self-efficacy matters. Self-efficacy. It's like, I'm a useful guy, right? I'm a useful guy, and then my future depends on how I do it. Okay? 내 미래는 내가 하기 나름이야. Kind of, It's like a 자조. It is a 새마을운동 or kind of in Korean 1970s, right? There was a movement called 새마을운동 in Korea. It was like stimulating those self-help of the people. Okay? I have to be the one that, self-motivating, and then I can develop my future, and then the future will be brighter with my effort in it. Okay, nobody is in control of my future. I'll be great. That kind of things, right? That's self-efficacy. It's a separate concept from overconfidence, right? Overconfidence is like, well, no matter what I do, the environment, maybe, future will be bright and optimistic, and then I know precisely what that has to be, either up or downwards, right? For sure, something will happen. That's overconfidence. Whereas self-efficacy is like positive self-perception about where the being useful to the society, for the whole community. Right, and then the being, believing that he or she can develop his or her future regardless of the environment. Right, this kind of self-efficacy matters in finance. Why? In terms of bankruptcy probability. These kind of guys, more self-efficacy guys, less likely to file for bankruptcy. Okay, they work harder to repay the money, and they get insured more, right? Insurance coverage is bigger for this kind of self-efficacy guys, because they don't want to depend on other people's money, right? So they want to cover themselves with their enough of insurance. Why does it matter for FinTech perspective, right? Andy, teach me something directly about FinTech, what's going on, the case or whatever. Well, you can always read that kind of books going on, right? In 교보문고 or whatever, Amazon.com. But this class is not about spoon feeding for you. This is more about, you develop your FinTech research and then FinTech company with this kind of state-of-the-art papers, right? And self-efficacy matters over there because if your insurance company, it has direct implication to you. You want to assess how much your retail client has more or less self-efficacy. And then those retail banking and retail stock brokerage houses, right? And then insurance companies as well. You guys do a lot of surveys for your psychological surveys to assess the risk preference of your clients, retail clients. But you have to include this self-efficacy, right? That's a direct implication. Is there a case about it? You go ahead and find it. If nobody did it, you have to be the one who do it, right? That's my message. Nobody did it so far. Of course, this is state-of-the-art research, okay? And you have to be the one, breaking out and then lead the way. Okay, that's the thing. Yeah, I am a useful person and I control my own destiny. Are less likely to hit bankruptcy. Yes. Survey of 6,000 US individuals and tracking down for many years. They've been doing this, and then it is controlling for the IQ. Isn't this because of the person has higher IQ in the first place, higher ability in the first place? Controlling for that, multiple regression. Okay, and isn't it because the guy has or girl has more risk aversion? Yeah, controlling for that. It's all about multiple regression. The effect of self-efficacy is still strong. That's that. The data comes from national longitudinal studies. NLSY tracks individuals' cognitive and non-cognitive abilities, including their self-efficacy from an early age. adulthood report labor and financial market experiences, 6,000 people. One standard deviation higher self-efficacy scores is associated with 1.9 percentage points lower probability of default. 0.5 percentage point lower probability of foreclosure, repossession, or bankruptcy, and 0.7 percentage point lower probability of borrowing through payday loans. Payday loans is like what? 가불받아 is like before your payday, you borrow money somehow, okay? And then 11% to 4 percentage point lower rate compared to, say, a sample average. Oh, yeah. It's 11% to 14%, not the percentage point, percent lower rate compared to sample average. You may say this 1.9 percentage point seems to be very minimal, but the unconditional probability is 11% to 14%. So the 1.9%. Wait. The unconditional rate is so low that the relative comparison between these two is like 11% to 14%, right? That's what I'm saying over here. And then self-efficacy. A person's belief that he or she can control or exert influence over the important events in his or her life. It is molded early in life through parent-child interactions. High level of stability over time, so it does not change over time during your lifetime. Okay, and your parental education or family education matters over there. Okay, and then the survey looks like this. Scoring, give a score to 1 through 4. Okay. Each time you answer this question. 1 is a strongly agree with this sentence, and then 4 is a strongly disagree. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. Likert scale, I would say. And the question, let me read it. 1, no way I can solve some of the problems I have. Number 2, sometimes I feel that I am being pushed around in my life. Number 3, I have little control over the things that happen to me. Number 4, I can do just about anything I really set my mind to. Okay. Number 5, I often feel helpless in dealing with the problems of life. Number 6, what happens to me in the future mostly depends on me. Okay. Number 7, there is little I can do to change many of the important things in my life. Okay. 4 and 6 is a reverse score, right? It is mostly it's the direction you see it, the number 1 through 4. But number 4 and 6 is the reverse. Psychometrics says that you need to insert certain questions like this, just to make sure everybody is just on the reading the material precisely and then answering coherently. And then they aggregate the scores, right? So aggregating 7 questions, 1 through 4, that tells us that, the score must be 7 to 28. Come on, not 4, 7 to 28. Higher score means high self-efficacy. Okay, so higher score, higher self-efficacy. This, in the horizontal axis, is the highest self-efficacy person. And then the lowest score over here is the lowest self-efficacy. I'm a helpless person. And then nothing I do, 노력 doesn't help me anything. Like the effort, what I do, no, it's all the destiny is determined on the. It's like should I say caste system? Or the you cannot help yourself to go up the social ladder or somehow. No, helpless society. Anyway, so that self-efficacy rate scores are shown up over here. What is shown in the vertical axis is the financial delinquency rate or bankruptcy rate probability. Okay, and clearly you see that these guys, right, have significantly lower bankruptcy rate. Okay, so it matters a lot. And then the multiple regression setting, the self-efficacy ratio, okay, the score matters in a statistically very significant manner. controlling for age, and then cognitive ability, risk aversion, patience, and then education level and income level and things like that. Okay, perception about banking network and financial market participation. What the heck am I trying to say over here? Here's my daughter's story, all right? My daughter, right? She's like about 15 years old, and only now she said, I'm going to have a bank account for the first time in my life, she said. Come on! How could that happen? First of all, myself, right? My first banking account, I tried to have it when I was the first grader or something in primary school or even earlier, because I learned about the saving money and then earning interest out of my savings, and then interest builds on interest and this kind of thing, compounding. That's important. I was educated in that way in my family before. And believe me, I am a finance professor, right? And then my daughter, my very daughter, did not listen to me. Interestingly, over the last decade, I tried to tell her, make one bank account, would you please? And she said, no, hell no. Why? Because I know the guys in the bank, they are wicked. And then the guys, the bankers, are very bad. And then my money put into the bank, I cannot trust the bankers. Why? Who said it? And she said, the YouTube, right? And it's quite understandable now, because the YouTube fake news, right? Fake news have been brainwashing her. And there's no way I can just pull her out of that brainwashing procedure, because every time she gets out of the dinner table and then goes to her room, nobody can stop her watching the YouTube. And then the YouTube says something bad about the financial network over the last decade. Why? Because 2008 and 9 financial crisis, which was such a huge crisis caused by those evil, greedy bankers, so that Bitcoin and all this kind of things popped up. And then also those fake news about this bankers conspiracy theory popped up, and it was quite convincingly carried through this the YouTube media, so that my daughter even was not trying to ever go to bank or anything. No. I would rather go to dentist than going to bankers. Oh my God! Would you please? Your father is, look at your father and then just listen to me. And then she's like, no. That's the whole idea of this section over here. Okay? And the thing is, it's not just my daughter, but also all the other people in the whole world share the same kind of tendency about participating into the financial market. Well, going into the bank and making a deposit is a kind of financial market participation. And then stock market participation is another one, right? So in the same sense, it's in the same sense, right? If you don't trust the guys in the banking, then you have less reason to go there and then put your money over there. You don't want to get sucked up, okay? The perception about the banking network matters a lot, all right? Matters a lot. So it goes together with the conspiracy theory, and then the Jewish banking network and Chinese banking network as well. And then is that something completely away from you guys as a global business administration majors? As it turns out, it is totally related to you guys and your future, because you want to be one of those banking network guys as well. Who knows? Out of my students, I hope some guys will build a banking empire in the whole world, the biggest one, hopefully, the great and best one. By that time, somebody in the YouTube or others, right, media may try to spread some conspiracy rumor against you. That's something you have to be, careful about as well. So let's go through this part. People like conspiracy theories, right? Conspiracy theories. You must have seen this kind of pictures several times at least. What is it? Freemason and Illuminati kind of things, Illuminati and Jewish banking network, all these kind of things. Okay, this kind of symbol, and then they talk about it in YouTube. You can easily Google search it and YouTube search it, and then you can, anyway. After any crisis, every crisis, we see some kind of conspiracy theories, right? There's endless doubt about Gentiles, other people, especially Jewish in Europe. Let me go through one by one. Over here. Why did Europeans had some kind of bias against the Jewish people? It goes back to the history. 2,000 years ago, after Jesus Christ, right, and AD 70, year number 70 or something, Roman Empire tried to conquer the Jerusalem. The people over there, right? Jewish people. And then the thing is, they fought against this Roman Empire's army so fiercely that in the end, 400 of them, like rangers kind of, 특전사 kind of guys, right? Were left. And they were not giving up, okay? And then they fought long time, and then eventually they were, surrounded by those Roman Empire armies in one castle, okay, in high place. And there, they never said, they never surrendered and fought until the end, so much so that they just killed themselves. All of 400 of them just killed themselves instead of saying, we give up to you, and please, even though we die in front of you, please save our family and relatives, our Jewish people over here. Please keep us safe over here. Hail Roman Empire, okay? Instead of saying this, they just kill themselves. Now, what's some of you may think that, oh, that's so cool, killing themselves without any, never surrendering to your enemies, and it's boosting up your ego, and then it's like, it turns out, if you never compromise with anybody, but just kill yourself like that, suicide. But you're not thinking about, you have to be more thoughtful than that, okay? Never kill yourself, right? Never kill yourselves. As a leader as well, if you are a political leader, you should never ever kill yourself. That's irresponsibility, okay? Why is it irresponsible? Okay, some of you may be really pissed off with me as I say this because of your political standing, but listen to me, okay? Here's the reason why. Why is killing themselves irresponsible? Because from the perspective of the empire, the Roman emperor, okay, it must be very costly for him to send those army to this distant place. Everything is money, and then not just money, but emotionally so much of an involvement, right? You don't want to spend much resource for that kind of conquering, right? And if this kind of tribe never surrenders, then the neighboring tribes will look at these guys, and then see what? Oh, that guy is not surrendering, and then the empire, doesn't revenge enough of it. Then we will also, revolt against this emperor. Okay, that guy is not surrendering. Why do we surrender? Okay, then rise up and rise up and rise up and rise up. And then for the emperors, it is the costliest situation if nobody surrenders like that. So one tribe, okay, for a single tribe not to surrender like that, well, if that is the case, then the emperor has to punish one tribe as a showcase, 일벌백계, right? Any of you who doesn't surrender to my authority, I will make you and your descendants miserable to the end. You held your head against me, I'm going to punish you to the end of the day. Okay? Otherwise, the rest of the guys will follow you and give me so much trouble. So that's what I have to do if you don't surrender. If you don't surrender, that's what I have to do. You see what I'm saying here, okay? So the wisest idea in this case is like 지피지기면 백절부터. Like if you know the other party and then if you know your side, you never 불태 is like you never make the situation miserable. Okay, that means it does not mean that you will never surrender, but you surrender somehow at the optimal point so that you and your enemy will be both happy. Okay, that's a 손자병법, like a old time the military rules, military schools of thoughts in Asia. So that you have to be able to surrender yourself and then compromise with the conqueror somehow. Okay, that's what the Jewish people had to do. Should have done it, but they did not. They killed themselves. Now, what did the Roman Empire do? Okay, I'm gonna make you as my showcase to the rest of the European people, so that I will make you extinct from not only from your land, but also will be alienated in all the European lands that I place. What do you mean? Well, the Roman Empire brought a whole lot more soldiers over there to carry those Jewish people, take up those Jewish people out of their land. Okay? 드러내서 확 드러내버렸어. It's like a whole people were taken out of their homeland. And then piece by piece, they were thrown into the European cities. And then in the European cities, the castles, right? They were not taken there as a king or some noble people, but one of the lowest level people over there, like a group of peoples, right? Scattered around. Now, guess what will happen if you were in that Jewish people group? Okay, guess what will happen after you were located in one of the European cities? Totally strange land, and then you are now surrounded by absolute majority of the local people, and you look different, and you talk different language, and your culture is totally different. What will happen? Brutal persecution happens. Brutal persecution, 박해, massacre. All right, 왕따. In Korean terminology, or ijime in Japanese terminology, happens, and because they don't want to give their piece of land. This is my land. Why do you try to come over here and then take up my bread from here? So all the people in that town, right, persecute this group of people, and then the Jewish people had to be contained in a small piece of land for each cities, right? And called ghettos. Interesting thing is the Jewish people carried their culture, unique culture, together with them in piece by piece. For example, their Torah and then Talmud kind of things were carried, so that they carried it. Their altars, like 신전 kind of things, like 제사 도구 kind of things, they carried it with them, and then they celebrated their culture whenever possible. Very unique. Then the thing is, the European people, and then the emperor said, do whatever you want to do. This kind of Jewish people, they never listen to me, so give them some hard time, they said. So the European people said to Jewish people, don't do farming, this is our land, and then don't get into our guild, which is like a companies, like the apprenticeship to all the journeymen, and then the masters level, right? Their trade union kind of things, they have their own unions or guild kind of system in their manufacturings, right? Building some products like this and that, but you will not be included over here. Get out of here, they said. Okay? Totally alienated, gave them a lot of hard times, and then whenever there was a disease like COVID-19, but Black Death or whatever, right? Black Death, even more miserable. whenever there was a kind of a plague like this, they spread out the rumor that says, oh, the Jewish people spread out some poisons to our wells. 우물에 독을 풀었어. Let's kill Jewish, they said. So that's how every now and then they were massacring these kind of, or beating these Jewish people, giving such a hard time, right? Even after Roman Empire died away, this kind of persecution has been going on there. The thing is, the Jewish people were spread into other people, other cities, right? They had to, they had to, make some money somehow, right? Some of the ways they could make money was banking, because the Christian culture there in the Bible that said, well, whenever you lend money to your brothers and sisters, do not charge interest, because that's the income out of no labor. like a 무노동임금, kind of like a so bad things they said in the Bible. So among the Christian people, they are brothers and sisters, like in the Middle Ages, right? Everybody was Christian, but Jewish was the only group that did not belong to this Christianity, because they are the ones by Christian church, right? They are the ones who killed Jesus because they did not believe Jesus is the Christ. They believe that the Jesus is simply one of the prophets, not the Christ. The Christ means some deliverer, the Messiah, the Son of God. But to Jewish people, Jesus is only a son of man, right? So that's why they were not brothers and sisters. They had more reason to persecute each other somehow. For that reason, because of that reason, the Christian people in Europe, they borrowed money from Jewish people more than from the Christian among Christian people. Why? Because among Christian people, you have to lend and borrow money without any interest. So nobody will lend you money. Okay? No capital market develops within that Christian society. But with the Jewish people, capital market develops. Okay? The capital market, financial market develops between Jewish versus non-Jewish people. Natural consequence, right? Quite unintended, I guess, but it developed like that. So that the Jewish people were by and by getting into this banking business, money business. And if you look at Harry Potter's movie, right, the way they picture about the guys in the banking, like borrowing and lending money, you see that picture over here. That's their stereotype about this banking network anyway. And then the Shakespeare's novel, The Merchant of Venice, right? That kind of bad image about the banking people is about precisely about the Shylock is a precise image about the Jewish banking network. Now that's the impression, the perception about this banking network. And then another interesting thing is not only the capital market was developed with these Jewish bankers, but also they were spread around different countries, different cities, right? One family of Jewish people in Germany, not just in Germany, but Germany had, in that land, they had 200 different countries. And then 200 different places Jewish people were scattered around, right? Plus, some of the Jewish people were scattered in the French and all the places in Europe. So the Jewish people, they were able to speak both languages, their own Hebrew language as well as European language, right? Some more languages as well. So they were naturally multilingual, adaptable to more diverse environments, right? And then whenever there is a marriage, right? After a certain age, you have to get married somehow. But Jewish people were not able to get married to Christian people because they don't belong to the same religion, right? From Asians' perspective, they all look the same, but why they don't belong to the same religion? Huh? You read the same Bible, Old Testament, but why don't you belong to the same? We don't understand it. Just like Europeans don't understand Chinese versus Korean versus Japan or versus Vietnam or Malaysia, we don't belong to the same group. Hard to understand, but that's the reality, right? Now the thing is, the Jewish people in each city, their community is so small that they have to look for other people from other relatives or more distant groups, right? You don't want to marry your within relatives marriage, right? Because genetically, marrying your cousins or something, genetically you will get some defect on that, right? 기형아 태어나요 kind of 유전병 kind of things. So genetic disease will happen. So you want to get married to some distant relatives or people from far away, but you cannot marry your Christians over there. So what happens? Well, you marry your sons and daughters to the Jewish people in the different countries. So you build up an international community with that, right? Even though it is Jewish network, it is international, multilingual, multinational. That kind of network, relative networks happens, right? Builds up over time. So 2,000 years, it has been going on like that. And also for Jewish people, they had choice, right? As they go on, right, move on, they could choose to become Christian and merge into the local society over there instead of sticking to their religion and then their ethnic group of being Jewish, right? So they, each and every moment, they could have chosen not to be Jewish, okay? If they choose to be Jewish, all the persecution happens. But so choosing to be Jewish means that you are ready to go on through, right? You will survive that, and then you will have that some ability to endure that kind of persecutions. Very challenging, by the way, right? Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is that the comparing Jewish versus Korean or any single nation is kind of misguided comparison. Okay, misguided comparison. Jewish people had some choices throughout 2,000 years of history to merge into a European culture, but they did not. Okay, they stuck to their. These people are the ones who stuck to their own culture. So that's why. Anyway, so international banking network were naturally building up within this Jewish group. That's what I'm trying to say, first of all. Bankers network 300 years, right? Ever since Rothschild, right? 300 years ago, like in Napoleonic War, there was a guy and a whole family called Rothschild, meaning red shield on their as a emblem of their family. In their house, in the gate, they had this kind of red shield. Okay, 방패 on their gate, and then they called it Rothschild in German language, right? They started from Frankfurt, and then the 300 years, right, in the Napoleonic age, right? They made their name, right, since the Napoleonic age, or even before that, right? And then how did they build up their empire? Okay. Is interesting, and then something you need to have some understanding about it more precisely, because there are a lot of conspiracy theory, false conspiracy theory surrounding Rothschild's family. Okay, if you go back, trace back all those conspiracy theories about this and that, right? Natural disaster or financial crisis or even COVID-19 or whatever, they say, oh, you know, it is out of the conspiracy, right? Everything is under their conspiracy. Whose conspiracy? If you trace that, and then they will end up with the Jewish network and the Jewish banking group, and at the heart, they will say, there's a Rothschild in it. Come on. Here is what happened with Rothschild 300 years ago. Okay, it's based on Niall Ferguson's book, right? So here is the European map that I draw over here. Here's Britain, yes. Edinburgh, and then London is over here, yes. And then there is a strait, Dover Strait. It's separating France and then the England, right? England, one more, right? Yeah. And then Ireland over here. And then there is a European land goes like this, right? Spain, France, Spain, Portugal, and then Gibraltar, and then Africa, right? And then here is a boot, one boot called Italy. Buonasera Italia. And then there is a Greece, right? And then there's a Black Sea and a Turkey. Yes, that does look good. Yes, North Africa. Yes, Sicily. And then there must be an island, Elba, right? This is the important one. Anyway, and then there is a Belgium, and then Scandinavia. Yes, a perfect European map. Right, good. So here there was a London, and then Paris, and then Naples, all right, and then Vienna, and then Frankfurt, must be somewhere here, right? And then this is Paris, and then here is something called Waterloo in near Belgium area. Okay, now French Revolution. Okay, French Revolution happened, but even before that, Rothschild's family started in Frankfurt, Germany. And then, let me change my color over here to something different. Frankfurt, they started their business, and then Mayer Amschel Rothschild was doing business over there, and then he was a successful banker for European monarchs, the kings and queens around here. And then one of his five sons moved to London and Lancashire over here, because there was an industrial revolution, and then the wool was very hot, and then with this industrial revolution, the British were able to produce a lot of clothes very extremely cheaply, a fraction of the price of what was traded in the European continent. So this guy, the third son, right? Rothschild went there and then did a great business and made a huge amount of money by importing those wools over here. Okay, with their secret network built up over there, and then selling it inexpensively by this clothing business. And then naturally, with this excess cash, they built up some banks over here in London, center of European finance. He built a center of European finance in London later on, but he was joining that banking group in London before Napoleonic War. And then Napoleon, with the French Revolution, right? French Revolution, Napoleon tried to build his empire. The thing is, French Revolution was a democratic movement, right? Fighting against those monarchs and cutting the head, beheading those Louis the 16th, right? That Jacobin and then those kind of guys were doing that revolution over here, which pissed off the neighboring monarchs. And then the thing is, Napoleon, out of nowhere, took over that leadership, right, and became an emperor himself, right, and then spreading out the idea of this democracy to the rest of the Europe somehow, unintentionally, I guess. And then the French culture, maybe, right? And then those the civil war and all this kind of revolution against, these monarchs, right, was happening, and then the monarchs had to join their forces together against France, Napoleonic forces, because otherwise their own monarch position will be threatened by their own people, right? What if our own people revolt against me and then cut my head, right? Not just hair, but head. They got afraid, freaked out, and then so they had to join their forces together under the leadership of Metternich of Austria, Habsburg family. Okay, Metternich. And then the thing is, they were fighting against this Napoleon, right? And then the interesting thing is, Britain already democratized, but they were joining Metternich over there, supporting them. Not this, French, because they fight like crazy. So what do? They fight with this. First of all, these guys fight against Napoleon, and then sent this Napoleon to Elba Island because they won and they got lost. And then afterwards, Napoleon got out of this island and then returned to Paris. And then that's the time we call it 100 days of Napoleon. 100일천하, right? 100 days under his rule. And then Napoleon quickly regained his popularity and then collected his army forces together and then expanded and then fought a war against European monarchs, against these guys again, especially in Waterloo, right? Not just he went to the Moscow, right, and then got beaten up, but later he quickly, fought it at Waterloo over here in around Belgium area. Now what happened? Well, during that, to prepare for this war, right? Those European monarchs as well as these guys in the London and then Britain, they had to send their armies to Waterloo. Okay? Sending their armies is not for free. They need money. At that point, money in pound, British pound, but pound is not enough because they don't use pound over here. So you had to convert this pound into gold, right? A bullion, right? Gold bars. Convert it into gold bullions and then use it over here to feed those armies and then support those materials, right? Now, who will convert this pound into gold? Bankers. And that Rothschild was doing that conversion. So they put a lot of money on their stake, right? With their money, they bought this gold, huge amount of gold, anticipating that this war, the Waterloo War battle, will take a prolonged period. And you see that as the war breaks out, the currency must be going down, the gold price must go up high. And they were buying this gold at the high price, okay, for the sake of this country, right? And then high price gold they purchased, and then they were sitting on this gold bar and converting it and then supporting the war like this for Metternich as well as the British government. The thing is, the war, okay, as it turned out, the battle finished abruptly, very quickly, much less anticipated than before, okay? And then for that, right, the war finished very quickly, and then the Napoleon was expelled to an island called Saint Helena in the Atlantic Ocean and was died over there, right? The thing is, the war finished immediately. So what must have happened to Rothschild family? They were sitting on gold piles. And then as the war finishes, the British pound price must be going up back again. And then the gold price must have been plunging like crazy. So that's what the history says by the evidence, right? Niall Ferguson's book. I strongly recommend you to go ahead and read his book, no other people's book about Rothschild. But here's the reason why. I tell you about the typical story about Rothschild from now on. Okay, here's the story what you will find. Usually it is a typical conspiracy theory. It goes like this. In that Battle of Waterloo, Rothschild was nobody, but he watched it on the ground. And then, as soon as he saw that Napoleon was defeated, he flew he sailed fast back to London on the day, right? Even before anybody could reach, right? And he was going into London, and then he was short selling those what is that? British consul, right? 국고채 of Britain, right? Or treasury, consul of British, very, very lowly. And then he was selling it, short selling it. And then spread the rumor that British lost instead of correct news, spreading out the false news. He was short selling it. And then by that, the price of the consul hit the rock bottom. And then there he bought it at a lower price, made money. And the next day, the correct news arrived. And then the correct news being the opposite. British won. So that the British consul price, shot up like crazy. By that, he earned a huge amount of money because he purchased it at the rock bottom price. Okay, so he made money by short selling it, and then purchased it at the rock bottom price, and made a lot more money by selling it at the high price, at the top. And then the story goes like, this is how the banking network sucks up your money. And you see that short sellers are bad, and they are spreading out bad rumors. And then this is how the Jewish people make money. And then the banking is all about this greed and false conspiracy spreading out and sucking up your blood like crazy. That's the conspiracy theory. Okay? Quite opposite to what really happened to Rothschild family. Okay? Yeah. And then who spreads out this kind of false rumor, right? False rumors. That's let me skip one more. Yeah. This is, if you go to Jewish Museum in London, this is the one you can see it. Okay? Here, the person you see is Nathan Meyer Rothschild, the guy who was sitting on that gold bullion, to support the army's money. Okay, converted his money, British pound, into gold bullion to support, right? And then, but the rumor is the opposite direction, and as if he was making tons of money by spreading out the false rumor of the Waterloo battle. Okay, this is the picture. You see the cap over here is the cap that was identification for the Jewish people in Germany. Okay, at the Second World War or even before that. All right, and it depicts and it portrays the Jewish banking family as a very evil, greedy wolf, or like a very horrendous animal like that. Okay, giving more justification to kill these, people in the banking network, and then Holocaust kind of things, right? Who spread this kind of rumor? That's Goebbels of Nazi. Okay, the Kim Il-jun of Hitler, I say, or 허삼수, 허문도. There are all kinds of, all the dictators, they live with this kind of people who manipulate those journalist sentiment, okay? Propaganda, right? Propaganda guy. If you watch, go ahead and watch the movie clip, The Greatest Dictator by, who is it? Greatest Dictator by Charlie Chaplin, and one of his clips, right, Greatest Dictator, you will see hair garbage. That sounds more like this. Goebbels, garbage, right? So go ahead and watch it. Very funny movie, and then very impressive one. You should watch it. But anyway, that's this guy. Spreading out the false rumor, fake news to kill Jewish people, 6 million of them. Racial discrimination, okay, 6 million were massacred, okay. out of almost, we estimate it to be like 12 million Jewish were living in the earth by that time. So half of the Jewish population were killed like by that. Okay, this guy was giving that kind of, justification, not a justification, but kind of a spreading out this rumor to set the tone, right? Very bad guy, I would say. So that's the impression about this Jewish banking network, right? And that is always, that kind of conspiracy theory at the center of it. These kind of things, happen, and then the Rothschild family is depicted as the guys in the center like that. Why in the center? Okay, Illuminati or something like that. Well, during that 19th century, after Napoleonic War, right? I told you that the Rothschild was supporting this British as well as the Metternich, the European concert, right? We call it European concert. If you are interested in those 외무고시 kind of things, right? Metternich, and then this kind of history is very important, right? And who was backing, right? Who was backing up those European concerts of these monarchs, right? They needed money, and somebody had to support their monies. And then Rothschild was serving that because their 5 brothers were spread into London, Paris, Frankfurt, and then Vienna and Naples, right? 5 different cities, and supporting all those monarchs, right? During that 19th century, they naturally, were able to, coordinate this kind of political and international affairs, right? Towards their advantage, because they don't want to kill themselves, right? They wanted to harmonize those, harmonize among these monarchs. Why? Because Jewish people were living all across the different borders. Nobody want to fight against each other, because 2 different countries fighting against each other, trouble time for Jewish people, because they are living in both countries. Why? France and Germany, let's say, if they fight, then the German people will question these Jewish people and say, hey, your relatives are living in Paris over there. You must be the spy. And then I'm going to kill you. And then they persecute. And same thing for French people as well. Oh, your relatives living over there. You must be spy. So they don't want to get this kind of into trouble, right? Nationalism was a natural enemy for this Jewish banking network at that time. And then naturally, the Jewish people were spreading those ideas about global harmony. Okay, that's what's been happening. And then it goes together with the American idea about, global harmony, okay, globalization. And it goes together with your ideas too as a global business major, right? We have to live in global harmony somehow. Don't try to, kill each other, the different nations, right? Racial discrimination, all these kind of things is troublesome, okay? Global business majors, you are in this same boat like that, okay? Anyway, so that's what happened over the over the 19th century. Okay, serving monarchs under the concert of Europe, and promoting globalization and the value of diversity. Okay, nationalism and racism are detrimental to the group of people living across different countries. Right. Same thing happens for global business people who are living in, China versus Taiwan versus other countries, right? Europe and America, and then immediately they will say, yeah. So you don't want to get into that trouble, right? And then getting back to Rothschild family, they were rather the victim of Nazis' Holocaust. And then Nazi was precisely targeting against these people. And then some of them were really killed in that gas chamber. Okay. And then their wealth, all those, not all, but a significant part of their wealth were taken over by Hitler. Okay. And their art collections, all those things were, captured by these guys. Yeah. And nowadays, Rothschild is not such a big presence. Their presence is very minimal these days, right? They are not a huge guy like Goldman Sachs or JP Morgan. The thing is, JP Morgan, I mean, the people who supposedly expert in Jewish banking network or Jewish history, they falsely spread the rumor that JP Morgan is a Jewish banker. No, JP Morgan is totally British, Anglo-Saxon, right? And then Rockefeller, they are not Jewish. They are totally American, and then rather more like British origin, right? But they want to. People just want to connect it to, find a reason to connect it to the Jewish network. No. Don't over exaggerate like that. Okay. Don't build up hatred like that, because part of the reason where they're the conspiracy theory, part of the thing is that they are triggering this kind of animosity or jealousy about the rich people, and then specifically targeting about this people in the global network. No. Okay, that's what I'm saying. Why do people like conspiracy theory? Because it's our natural instinct. Okay, human brain is wired so that constantly we look for why. Why is that? Why is there? Right? Like stories, we like stories of powerful human groups doing something secretively, right? Oh, even those, right? The tsunami kind of things. We wish it to be like under the big purpose of some god or somebody we don't know, right? Some powerful figure. Okay, natural phenomena, maybe it's God, but there may be some reason why. But it's a random event. Come on. Why did people die in such area with a tsunami versus not? It's a completely random event. Okay, don't try to go for a why for that part. But it's their instinct. Why did this kind of things happen? Helpless. It's our brain that drives us to ask why. Okay. Even for unexplainable extreme events like natural disasters or financial crisis, less, right? But financial crisis, is it under the consensus of certain powerful group? No. East Asian financial crisis is another one, right? 1997 and 8. Was it under the conspiracy of banking network people? No, it's a natural consequence of bubble and burst. I tell you one thing, one interesting thing. Bubble, why does it happen? And then crash, why does it happen? My take on it is that because those engineers who lack in communication ability, right? They oversell their product, right? Like AI or their internet.com companies, right? Oh, some mysterious things that you develop. They don't know how to communicate, but they show it sexy ways. They show it. And then the finance guys like you guys overbuy it, overexcited. It's like, oh, 약 팔아 together, yes. It's like overselling it. And as long as somebody else will be excited and then buy it at a higher price than that, you are happy to buy it and enjoying the bubble, ride onto the wave, and then later on crash happens. 버블과 떡락은, it's like a bubble and the crash repeats itself thanks to the engineers overselling and finance guys overselling it together, right? You are responsible. We are all responsible for that. It's not under the conspiracy of some higher level network. Come on, right? Wait for that crash of AI. Okay, good luck. World wars or anything. Anyway, so even for global hits like Gangnam Style or Gangnam Style 2012, they, were suspecting whether, Psy belonged to Illuminati. Illuminati, my eyes, come on. The only thing I can tell about his network is he is my high school and elementary school and kindergarten alumni, my 5 years younger alumni, right? Other than that, network-wise, yeah, no way. But people want this kind of stories. it's more, stimulating, right? And it's more exciting to want to believe that. But watch out. You are joining Nazi with that one. Don't help Nazi kind of people by believing in that conspiracy theory. And some people, right? Some people, for example, interesting thing is the Jewish banking network, right? In European and American setting, it goes more into the hatred about this ethnic group, right? So that's clearly dangerous. So I say don't go there. But one of the strange things about this conspiracy theory is Asian people, Chinese people, and Japanese people and Korean people, the stereotype about Jewish people is not that negative. Rather, they focus more on this kind of being rich and powerful. Oh, over exaggerated powerfulness, right? And then they admire this kind of things. And then that is what European people find it strange about Korean people or Asian people. Why do you have that kind of dreaming thing? Even Korean people, some of our leaders, they say, oh, just like Jewish people spread out to the European countries and then American countries, and then just like the diaspora, we call it diaspora, okay? Korean people have to be spreading out to the world like Jewish people, and then we have to be just like Jewish people, have to be successful like that and earning money like that and then winning Nobel Prize like that or leading the academic leadership position like that. And I'm like, wait a minute, do you really know what happened to Jewish people and then what they had to suffer from, that you are telling Korean people to spread out to each different city and they get persecuted for 2,000 years? And I say, come on. We have to have a balanced picture about what they had to undergo. Okay? You don't know what they've suffered. Okay? But this is the stereotype the Asian people have about Jewish people. Okay. From the Jewish people's perspective, okay, they have, I don't know what they will have in their mind. The fact check, yeah, I told you about it. He was pursuing, this is, almost nobody wanted to believe this kind of story because it is not sensational, right? People seek for sensation. So, Song Hungbing, Currency War, 화폐 전쟁 kind of book. So, 홍익희 kind of guys. They even go to Samsung CEO's, CEO special guest speaker series. They do the speech. And I'm like, wake up, right? If you go to Google and then, or go Google search about Rothschild or YouTube Rothschild, you will find a lot of fake news about this, fake stories, fake conspiracy theories. So much so that you will not even remember what I said in this class. And after this class, you will still remember more about those Nazi Goebbels story. And this is precisely what I'm going to test you in your final exam, so that those who believe in that conspiracy theory will tumble down. Okay? So, wait for that. Why do I tell you about this? It affects your financial market participation. Number two, in Asia, you have another ethnic group that is knowingly more involved into that global, in the regional financial network. Overseas Chinese, right? Over the last 500 years or something, ever since Ming Dynasty, Chinese people have spread around in Southeast Asia. Okay, and then naturally they built up the trade network, and quite similar process happened, right? Quite similar process. They were rather, excluded from the local business because they were, local people don't want to, do farmings together, right? Kind of things. And then the spread out in different countries, and then it is useful for trading purposes. So they built trading network and banking network over there. The thing is, that's a positive side. The negative side is that every now and then, these Chinese banking group, those Chinese ethnicities people, they were persecuted a lot of times. A lot of massacres happened throughout the Southeast Asian history. If you look at the Vietnamese or Malaysian or Indonesian history, right? A lot of revolutions happened. Every now and then, these minority group were sacrificed and persecuted. So that's one thing that you have to be careful about when you talk to these people, right? Doing global business without understanding this, it's dangerous. Come on, okay? Yeah. And then the thing is, Jewish people as well as those Chinese people overseas as well, there are some small group of very rich and successful people over there, but not all of them were successful. Not all of them. Majority of the Jewish people in Frankfurt, for example, were poor, right? But that's something people don't talk about, right? We have to recognize that. The hardships they had to go through, right? The household finance and the network of people in finance, individual investors trading heavily depends on the mood and sentiment of the market. Yeah, let me get back to this one. And is it also dependent on their sentiment or emotion about people in financial network? If banking networks matter, should they be open or closed? The Jewish persecution and household investment. Well, here comes Francesco da Cunto. He's now in Boston College, very famous finance professor, and then he's also an expert in machine learning and finance research. Distrust in finance lingers. He goes through a big data about the record about the Jewish persecution in German land, right? Germany, in the Second World War, and then those areas, the small district by district, they have the historical record about how many Jewish were persecuted, and pogrom we call it, right? The thing is, more hatred about this Jewish banking network, the more pogrom or more persecution happened in that region, and then the more doubt about, more worse image or impression about the banking network still lingers over there afterwards. And then even nowadays, the people in those regions are less likely to participate in the financial market, like stock market, buying and selling stocks. They never, okay? That's what he found in using the historical big data, right? Very amazing one. Tear down this Wall Street. That was a rhetoric, anti-market rhetoric in 2010. And the Christians have been banned from lending money at the interest over the last histories, right? Jews have run the financial sector in Europe, especially in current Germany. But why Germany? Yeah, you can question it. But more hatred towards Jews, more distrust towards finance, because they would say Jewish about money. They will have this kind of, wrong impression about it. They run a survey, and then the high distrust in finance region is still there, right? After they run a survey, and in the high Jewish persecution area in Second World War, they're still now less likely to participate in the market. What's the problem with that? Well, less people participate in the market, then it hurts the liquidity in the stock market or financial market. The less liquidity hurts the market efficiency, okay? So that the price will not reflect the correct or fundamental value correctly, okay? So it does not help the resource allocation, okay? Never helps the market. And it's not good. Bad for EMH, bad for efficient resource allocation. That's the idea. So we need to have a fair understanding about the ethnic group or the groups in the financial network. Okay. Thank God my daughter is now going into that Kakao Bank, right? She has less negative image about this tech company, right? And then she's more prone to FinTech rather than just banking, right? But anyway, importance of talent pool in banking is also studied by Chuprinin and Sosiura. Denis Sosiura's picture is over here. He's a very famous professor at Arizona State University. Now, their paper is about studying the mutual fund managers, whether they are from rich family, well-connected ones versus poor families, right? Poor family or less resourced families, should I say, right? In Korean terminology, 금수저 versus 흑수저 kind of things. One of my key messages throughout my life is this. Whenever there is a fight between lion versus tiger, one lion, one tiger, which one wins is my question, right? Lion fighting against tiger, tiger fighting against lion, right? Lion versus tiger, same mass, same power, right? Same skill, okay? Let's say it. Same ability. Which one wins? 1-to-1. Which one wins? And my answer is whichever is hungrier will win. Okay? Hungry 정신, right? If you are not hungry, you will lose, right? And that is tested and confirmed by Sosiura's paper. He looks at the mutual fund managers and then he has a big data about the family background of these managers. Are they coming from rich family region versus middle class or poor family class, right? And then the guys coming from this poor families, they outperform, deliver higher alpha, significantly higher alpha than the guys coming from rich family, 금수저 family, right? Very interesting idea. Okay. Indeed, he finds that rich kids have easier time getting jobs in mutual fund, but they are the ones destroy value with negative alpha. And they are hired more by smaller funds. So smaller boutique companies, they are more likely to hire rich kids and then keep on staying as a small fund and then disappear. Bigger fund, they hire from diverse group of people and then hire this kind of, guys from poor families, less connected, right? And then outperform and keep on being great, right? This is how the Samsung was making their name as well, right? They were hiring from all different kinds of groups of people in Korea, and they were rewarding those great talents regardless of their family backgrounds, right? In Samsung. Right. And then managers from poor family background pick better stocks. Stock picking ability is better. And then timing ability is better. They found it. Trade better. And I promote it sensitively to the performance. Yes. Better alpha, promote it faster. Yeah. That's what it is supposed to be. Right? Implication to us. Money is about trust, and in trust, human network matters. This is why bankers hire those who they know personally. Still, bankers have to keep wider pool of talents to stay competitive. From our perspective, we should try to maximize our chance to meeting and networking with the bankers. It's all about getting to know each other. So human business. Banking is about human business. 사람 business라고. It's like so you have to get the chance to meet the people in the banking industry. Without meeting you, they will not even pay attention to anybody, not you, right? So whenever there is a chance to meet and network, go ahead and meet that guy or girl, right? The lady or gentleman, right? Meet them and let yourself known to them. Hey, I am Andy Kim from SKKU GBA. You have to be able to tell yourself and leave that impression to them. 꽉 박아 넣어. Like. Otherwise, no chance. Those who are aggressive will get it. Those who are hungry will get it. Oh, those guys in the higher network, they will get hired anyway. No. No. They may, But that kind of banks or mutual fund or hedge fund will go down. Okay? Those guys who are open and then are supposed to be successful will open up to you guys. Right? Right. So, what the heck? Just meet them and beat them. That's it. Also, once you become international bankers and businessmen, notice that you could also fall prey to anti-banker sentiment during prolonged recessions, right? Those fantasies about like ethnic groups about this, rich families and banking families. Well, that kind of admiration quickly turns into hatred when the economy hits into prolonged recession like this. Watch out. Watch out. Stay away from conspiracy theories. And then another thing I have to highlight on this one is Rothschild back again. I said their presence is very weak these days, right? Why? They failed in 19th century. They failed to explore the fast growing market in that time. That is America, the fastest growing market. Why? Because Rothschild family were complacent. They were living richer than European monarchs. 왕보다 부자. They had 42 different manors or the 별장들 spread all around Europe. Okay? I visited one of them in Watston Manor. You can see my video about it. And that manor is bigger than a golf course. And that manor is, I think that manor has better souvenirs or what kind of the antiques, better, fancier antiques, perhaps better than Versailles, the palace in France or something. That may be an exaggeration, but close to that, right? Very close to that. That's just one manner of them. They have 42 different, right? And then for their sons and daughters, right? The first generation, Meyer Amschel Rothschild, starting from rather poor starting, they were very ambitious, hungry tiger, right? Winning everywhere. And then the second generation still kept that hungry spirit, right? Very successful and then made their name all around Europe. So third generation, they sustained that one, okay? Somehow once they built that empire, there is some momentum going on, right? Fourth generation is a different story. Fourth generation, 달도 차면 기운다. It's natural consequence. Everybody was very complacent, so that they were, they first explored the American market. They went to Europe, the New York City, and then after 3 years they quit. Oh no, I cannot endure that kind of tough environment, wild west, right? Whereas the toilet, our toilet is very warm and safe, and then very beautiful. But the toilet over here, oh my God, so stinky. They don't want to go there, right? Wild environment, right? They cannot survive. So they stopped their business, and then that's why they lost a huge market to J.P. Morgan, Goldman Sachs, all these guys. Hungry. If you are not hungry, you will lose. Stay hungry, right? That's Steve Jobs' message, right? It holds true throughout the human history. And then, not only that, their fourth generation and fifth generation, they were smart as well, of course, but in different direction. They excelled in academia and zoology, and then arts and history. So their expertise goes into different direction, right? Not in banking. So that's why they naturally went down, right? But still, interestingly, they are still the target of jihadist movement. So much so that I went to the London headquarters of Rothschild at one point, like 4 years ago or something, 3 years ago. And the thing is, number one, what used to be their headquarters in 19th century, that place is now taken over by what? Bank of China. Very interesting. That place is right across the street of Central Bank of England, the Bank of England. Very influential position. Now it is Bank of China. Number two, their current headquarters has no label about Rothschild. Everybody else, like UBS or Goldman Sachs, they have their emblem over there like this. It's our headquarters. Bank of China, this is our headquarters. Proudly present. But Rothschild, they don't. Why? And it's very secretively shown in their, inside their first floor lobby. And it only in the outside you can see that it is Rothschild by looking at their paints depicting their families, their faces of 5 brothers of Rothschild. Okay, why is it not recognizable outside? If you don't know about the faces of this Rothschild, you will not even recognize that is that place. Why? Because it is. It must be the target of the terrorist attacks. Those who hate this kind of ethnic groups, and then the Rothschild, the conspiracy theory believers, right? So that what happened to me? Well, I was everywhere I go in that famous places, I take selfies. You know that. Right, like that. I was doing that in front of their buildings, and then the bodyguard fiercely came against me and said, "You, stop there!" It's like, I was almost like kicked out from there, right? I was so scared, and they just, ran away. Very sensitive place. The conspiracy theory unintended consequence, or maybe, right? That's there. And then another reason why the Rothschild family was underperforming, right, over the last century or so, is their limited resource of human resource, right? They were selecting their successors from within their relatives, small pool of people. So then I told you, in the 4th generation, everybody was excelling in other direction than banking, right? Art history. Who are good at art history was sitting in as a bank head. You don't want that happening, right? Who are good at philosophy, sitting as a CEO. You don't want that thing happening, right? And so that was what was happening over there. And then they had less of a choice to marriage, right, in the first place, because it's only small number of their Jewish people are comparably rich so that they could marry. They could not marry other people, right, in the Christian group to protect their wealth. So their naturally, selection of people was very limited. So that your competence goes down if you keep on doing that. Some of you have a strong bias against, those foreign banking industry is dominated by a certain group of people only, so that I can never ever get into that top position. No, how much do you know about it, right? If they are destined to succeed, then they will have to hire you as long as you are the top guys, okay? If you're competent enough and confident enough, you should go there. Global banking industry, the bigger pool, you'll have to challenge for that, right? So that's important reason why Rothschild was not as outperforming as people believe, right, in that conspiracy theory. The pool of talent has to be always wide and diversified. Right, wide and diversified. So that's perhaps the most important message throughout the whole semester, or throughout the whole business education in the 4 years, right? I think that's it. I hope you enjoyed this lecture of mine. And then next class, I'm going to talk about, what is it? Corporate finance side of behavioral finance. So whole lot of more exciting